They are the names whispered through prophecy, spoken with bated breath in hushed tones around flickering oil lamps. Nations shrouded in mystery, destined to rise at the end of days. Gog and Magog, the armies of the north, the terror of the last great war. But who were they? From the earliest pages of Scripture, the seeds of their mystery are planted. In Genesis 10, we read the genealogies of Noah's sons after the flood. Japheth, one of Noah's sons, had a descendant named Magog. His brothers were Gomer, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. These names would become nations, powers that spread across the earth. Magog, in particular, is mentioned as settling in the far north, in lands that would later be associated with vast tribes and warrior peoples. And then for a long time, their story seems to disappear. For 1,000 years, the descendants of Magog seem to fade into obscurity, until suddenly, some 600 years before Christ, the prophet Ezekiel spoke of a vision unlike anything Israel had ever heard. In Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39, God commands the prophet, "Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Prophesy against him and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, Gog." The prophecy unfolds like a nightmare. Gog, the leader of a mighty coalition, will rise in the latter days. Persia, Cush, Put, Gomer, and Beth Togarmah from the far north all answer to his call. And behind them rides the mysterious figure of the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, none other than Gog. Together, their armies will be vast, countless like a storm covering the land. Their target, the people of Israel, living in safety in their land. But why would they come? Ezekiel tells us that greed and destruction drive Gog. He sees a land without walls, rich with cattle and goods, and he desires to plunder it. His armies march an unstoppable tide. The world trembles at the sight of Gog and Magog surrounding God's chosen people. And yet, this is not the end for Israel. It is the end for Gog, for God himself declares that on that day he will rise in fury. Earthquakes will shake the land, mountains will crumble, and every wall will fall to the ground. Chaos will consume God's armies. God will unleash pestilence, torrential rains, hailstones, fire, and sulfur. And the nations will know this is the hand of the Lord. The destruction is so complete that it takes Israel 7 years to burn the weapons of Gog's defeated armies and 7 months to bury the dead. The Valley of Hamon-Gog becomes their grave, a monument of God's judgment against the nations that rise against his people. But the mystery of Gog and Magog does not end in Ezekiel. Centuries later, the book of Revelation reawakens their name. In Revelation chapter 20, after the 1,000-year reign of Christ, Satan is released from his prison. He goes out to deceive the nations at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, gathering them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the sea. They march across the earth and surround the camp of God's people. But once again, fire falls from heaven, and they are devoured. From Genesis to Revelation, Gog and Magog appear as the ultimate enemies of God's people, symbols of rebellion, nations stirred by Satan himself to oppose the plan of God. They are not just men or tribes. They are a shadow of evil that rises again and again until God crushes them once and for all. Jewish tradition saw Gog and Magog as fierce tribes of the north, sometimes even linked to Scythians or distant barbarian nations. Early Christian writers wondered if they represented Rome or the enemies of the church. Later legends and apocryphal texts like the Apocalypse of Abraham described them as locked away behind iron gates by Alexander the Great, waiting for the appointed time to break free and wreak havoc on the earth. The mention of Gog and Magog in the Bible has led many to wonder if there might be a physical location connected to these mysterious figures. Is there a place called Magog? Could there be archaeological evidence left behind by the people of Gog? While the Bible doesn't point to a specific place named Magog, it does give clues about where they lived. In Ezekiel's prophecy, Magog is described as being in the far north, with his allies coming from places like Persia and Kush. Persia, also known as ancient Iran, is located in what is today Western Asia. Kush is believed to be the ancient region of Ethiopia. If we consider the geographic position of these regions relative to Magog's location in the far north, it suggests that they were likely situated somewhere near modern-day Armenia or the Caucasus region. These areas were known for their warrior-like inhabitants in ancient times, fitting the description of the powerful armies of Gog and Magog. One intriguing aspect of this is the possible connection to the Kingdom of Van. Located in what is now eastern Turkey, the Kingdom of Van was a prominent power in the region during the time period in which the Book of Ezekiel was written. Its strategic position between the regions of Persia and Kush aligns with the biblical description of Magog's allies. Additionally, the kingdom's militaristic nature and its association with nomadic tribes from the north could be seen as a parallel to the powerful northern armies led by Magog. While there is indirect historical evidence linking the Kingdom of Van to the biblical account of Gog and Magog, the geographical and cultural similarities make it an interesting candidate for further exploration. What makes the story of Gog and Magog so haunting is that it is not only prophecy, it is unfinished prophecy. The final war has not yet come. Their defeat in Ezekiel is a picture, a foreshadowing of that last great rebellion in Revelation. Are Gog and Magog still out there hiding in the shadows? There are two possible answers to this question, depending on how you view the prophecies. On one hand, Gog and Magog may represent a literal group of nations that will align themselves against Israel in the future. We see support for this idea in the fact that the scriptures refer to them as he and his, suggesting a collective entity. This viewpoint is rooted in a literal interpretation of the Bible and holds that the events described by Ezekiel and Revelation will unfold exactly as written. Those who believe in this view anticipate a future gathering of nations from the northern regions of the earth, an alliance driven by greed and a desire to conquer Israel. However, another perspective interprets the mention of Gog and Magog as symbolic rather than literal. This view suggests that they represent any nation or group that will oppose Israel throughout history. From this perspective, the references to Gog and Magog serve as a reminder that opposition to God's people will persist throughout time, but will ultimately be futile. Ultimately, whether Gog and Magog represent a literal group of nations or a symbolic force of opposition, the core message remains clear. God will ultimately triumph over those who rise against his people. We can't predict when these events will occur, but we can learn from the stories and teachings within the Bible. The story of Gog and Magog is a haunting reminder of the constant struggle between good and evil, light and darkness that exists in our world. It teaches us that opposition and persecution of the righteous will continue, but that God is ultimately in control and will protect those who follow him. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the mysteries of the past. As we wrap up our exploration of the enigmatic Gog and Magog, I invite you to continue your journey through history with our new episode. Click the link provided to embark on the next adventure. Until then, stay curious, keep asking questions, and remember that the past is never truly gone. It's an integral part of our story. Thank you for watching.